Project Blue Beam. Serge Monast. Serge Monast, Joe Engel, Gene Roddenberry, Strontium, Barium, Niobate, holographic chemtrails. None of those words mean what you think they mean. Anyway, I don't think you know what they mean. Anyway, here we go. An unmade May 1975 Star Trek film script created by Gene Roddenberry with exactly the same plot, almost exactly. This is an example of somebody ripping off a sci-fi writer. This is such a common thing that I'm starting to wonder if we should just all take sci-fi reading classes and require it, because honestly it's reasonably good fiction and it would prevent people from making mistakes. Anyway, it was a 1975 Star Trek film script mentioned in a 1994 book that was plagiarized by the fraud that is Serge Monast, excuse me. He's a Frenchman. He's depicted in the icon for this video, hopefully. 1994, Joe Engel published Gene Roddenberry, The Myth and the Man Behind Star Trek, and on page 165 it said the following. This is not a perfect quote, I'm sure. It's probably different, but in May 1975, Gene Roddenberry accepted an offer from Paramount to develop a Star Trek feature film, and moved back into his old office at Paramount lot. His proposed story told of flying saucers hovering above the Earth that was programmed to send down people who looked like prophets, including Jesus Christ. Just after this, Serge Monast did his 1994 Project Blue Beam lecture, so there's some reason to believe he stole the idea. The fact that this idea has been bandied about in Star Trek lore since 1975 and was part of the Star Trek mythos for 20 years? Yeah, 20 freaking years. Says flat out, yeah, he stole the idea. 1993, September 1st, there was a mentioning of Strontium, Barium, Niobate, which is an actual material, by the way. I've got the symbol for it in the icon for the video, hopefully. Gene Roddenberry recycled his 1975 movie idea for Star Trek Next Generation's episodes Devil's Due, which is where a planet is told that it has to give over its entire value because they still have a ritualistic and cultural significant thing saying that a savior will come back someday and we have a contract with them. So someone decides to fake it. That's the picture of the lady holding, a ball of lightning. And then the episode Justice, where an unseen entity plays literally a false god to a bunch of people on a planet and gives them rules to follow just to teach them to follow rules. They're relatively arbitrary, and that's a Next Generation episode where Picard argues that a rule without meaning is not a rule, it's a test, among other things. And then Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, the movie, which depicts Spock's crazy brother trying to drag everybody kicking and screaming to God, finding out God is actually just a fake, false God entity. These are all pieces from his original script, turned into individual episodes and a movie, partially. That's really all there is to it. Some French speaker decided to do a fearmonger story on stage as a lecture and a book. And he threw in chemtrails and everything else he could come up with. He probably gotten these from web boards. At that time, being on the net and being in culture and being in literature were all kind of separated a little bit more than they are now. So you'd have to understand at the time, the person probably dug up all this data by being a Trekkie. But yeah, Project Blue Beam, first of all, what is its name? Okay, on the TV show Star Trek, you would be beamed from point to point, beam me up. It talked about holograms, but it didn't invoke the holodeck idea. And it involved a really simple idea. This is an analogy for people who are indistinguishable from magicians, showing up with higher technology in primitive cultures and being thought of as gods. This is the reason for cargo cults. Yeah. This is talking about something that's already happened repeatedly. Any population that is sufficiently ignorant of things outside of their culture will be mystified by things. If you went back in time to any period of time more than 30 or 40 years ago, you would be thought of as being an alien as well. And everybody threw in stuff like holograms, saying that's how Project Bluebeam works. And he threw the idea together that you would be communicated with through your mind, but somehow you had to have holograms. There's even quotes from the original script Roddenberry came up with that are almost exact depictions of the same thing he came up with. He's a Star Trek fan who decided to make money or make himself famous, same thing, by telling everybody a fearmonger story. That's actually where it came from. There is no other origin for this. He's not even stating he got it from anywhere, really. He posits a bunch of ideas and says, oh, I got this from, such and such source, unnamed sources as well as others, but none of it was ever corroborated. The only thing that makes sense is he stole it as a sci-fi idea. And next, there is no evidence of this happening at this time. I got one image that people say, well, that's Project Bluebeam. No, actually, it's an explained phenomena, and we're just going to do this. Just like religion, and just like people who say, I'd rather believe what I believe, and you can't tell me any different. People want to believe in the mystical. They want to believe in the magical. They want to believe in mysteries still being there. We currently understand enough about reality to alter it ourselves. And that scares the hell out of anybody who's got any brains whatsoever. And now I have become destroyer of worlds. We're growing up too fast as a species, and yet not fast enough in other ways. This is a legitimate fear. But assigning bullcrap stories like this, ripped off from Gene Roddenberry, and these stories are actually just analogies for things that had happened in history already, ripping off this stuff to push a meme that doesn't mean anything. I had somebody post in, it's just 2 words, Project Bluebeam. Just 3 words. It's not. Project Bluebeam was made up out of someone's imagination and not the person who published it. He plagiarized Gene Roddenberry and probably hundreds of other people in history itself. Anybody who believes otherwise, you must acknowledge that it's very likely he stole the story from Gene Roddenberry. So basically, maybe you shouldn't treat it as that. Maybe you should just watch Star Trek and get some education. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.